Welcome back, and it's less than a week since we are back. Quinny, we wanted to jump on, rightly so, after Celtic have added another cup. It's three now out of four under Ange Postecoglou. Of course, we went on to win the Viaplay Cup, the League Cup, whatever you want to call it, yesterday, defeating Rangers 2-1, two goals from Kyogo Furuhashi. The dust has probably now settled a wee bit. Had we did this right after the game, would have been, buzzing. Now that we're still a buzzing, I've really struggled to get to sleep last night. The adrenaline was still pumping through my body after the game. Just firstly, Quinny, I think a bit of relief towards the end of the game, but we we we, we got there in the end, which I think was rightly deserved.
Yeah, well, that was the manager's comments right at the end, wasn't it? It's relief for the first instance, and then you start to get the joy or whatever. But I can only imagine, it looked like a great game to be at. Unfortunately, I never got myself to the match, but I think everyone who did manage to attend, I think they'll be suffering from the same ails as yourself, Declan. Maybe a wee bit of a sore head and a bit of an adrenaline crash,
I was quite sensible. I did partake in a few beverages after the game, but I was pretty sensible because I knew I'd had work today. I know, probably been the sensible thing to take the day off, but when you're writing about Celtic, it's calling it work day after a cup final is probably a bit cheeky. So wanted to be in, wanted to be given my thoughts in the game, and obviously getting the chance to speak to you after. But we've obviously got the image behind us, Quinny, Callum McGregor, who, let's start with the captain. He is the guy that sets the standards. Of course, GB had a cheeky wee dig at Rangers banner last week with that. Due to Celtic winning 22 trophies in 11 years, whereas Rangers are at 2. All about standards. That man there, you can see peeking through with the cup in his hands, Callum McGregor. He is one of these players who you might not always notice in a game, Quinny. And I say that with the greatest deal of respect. He can be so effective in games, and at times, maybe when it's not going your way, you don't notice him so much, but he does a lot of running off the ball. But yesterday, towards that last 10 minutes, when you really needed somebody to stand up, be there to break up play, be there to be that pivot, he was absolutely vital to us towards the end of that game and for majority of the first half.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stalwarts really turned up in the match. McGregor. I think Joe Hart had a decent enough, kind of game. I know he didn't really have many.
I don't think there's too much you can do with the goal. We'll get on to talk about that.
Yeah.
But
then guys like Carter Vickers, Johnson, Taylor, Starfelt. I think all those guys that we've seen really bed into the squad. As you say, they're not the glamour ones. They're not the ones taking on 3 men on the dribble or breaking a counter attack or putting the ball in the net all the time. But when it got to that sticky point right at the end, where it is like one goal in it and the yellow cards were coming out quite a lot for the last 10 minutes. They're the calm, steady heads that you need to steer us over the line.
And it's an incredible record, Quinny, that Callum McGregor's got. The number off the top of my head of it is that he's not lost a final as either a youth player or professional footballer at Hampden, which is absolutely incredible when you think about it. It might be 11, but don't quote me on that. Somebody will probably tell us in the comments after it, or I'll remember here. But it's absolutely an incredible record, and it's you see the passion from Callum and the other guys that we will talk about towards the end of this podcast. But for him again, I think you're absolutely delighted for him because he's the leader, and it's great to see him add another medal to his bag, which is getting even bigger. If he's already got a spare room for the medals so far, Quinny, I think you might need to be building another one pretty shortly. It's very hard to tear this apart. We can do that looking at individual performances and whatever else, but just in terms of just looking at the game as a whole, I thought first half it was pretty even Stevens in terms of possession. Celtic, watching them this season, watching them particularly under Ange Postecoglou, like to have large spells of the game, Quinny, where we have a lot of the ball, moving the ball about. We didn't get that chance too much yesterday, but it was a perfect time for us to score towards the end of that first half.
Yeah, it was. You're spot on there for sure. But it did feel like even for the first half an hour when we weren't really hitting our straps and hadn't really got into the game yet properly, we were still getting all the way to the final third, and then sometimes in other matches, maybe even the European ones, where we were struggling to kind of get into the game for the first little bit, the ball would break down in midfield and we would have been doing a lot of defending. Whereas yesterday, even when that wasn't coming, as I say, we were still progressing into the final third, and it was I think Maeda ran the ball out the pitch 3 or 4 times and
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
I was going to say, just kind of, and that as a caveat to that, I think there maybe was a wee bit of nervousness with some of them in the game, and that kind of for the first part that you could maybe see. Did that come across to you in the TV? It certainly came across to me at Hampden that at times maybe just some of the players were doing that, because it's not like Dyson to do stuff like that. He had a fantastic game. We will talk about him, but so there was possibly a wee bit of that in the first half. Just the occasion was getting to a few of them.
It definitely could have been, because, with the 50-50 fan attendance, it was like, from where I was sitting, looked like an amazing atmosphere, and the first half in particular, shooting into the baddies, as it were. Maybe there's a wee bit, I don't know if it's maybe quite nerves, maybe a wee bit of, stage fright for the first like minute or so, but it's just that kind of thing. You just need to kind of
Just
have
fine.
your mistake or two.
It's absolutely fine,
Big time.
I've never and will never get the chance to play in a cup final, but the pressure is on. It's always on playing for Celtic, but in a cup final it's on against your rivals. So I think there was a wee bit of that in the game, but I got the feeling that the ball that Johnson puts across for Kyogo with the header, I was starting to get that feeling that I get when I think a goal's coming, and really, really good goal. I sent you a wee clip just before we came on. That somebody did kind of turn that apart, and we will get on to talk about Rio Hatate and Aaron Mooy. But the thing that was highlighted in this was the way that Rangers had set up to kind of nullify Celtic in the middle of the park. Hatate drags Tillman, I think it is, out from his wing position, which then gives Greg Taylor that space to just bolt down the left hand side. He gets the ball across. Maeda has a swipe at the ball, doesn't get anything on it. And Kyogo tucks into the back. And just firstly, in terms of Hatate dragging Tillman out, really, really important aspect of Hatate's game doing that.
Oh, for sure. And Hatate, like, is probably the best game I think he's played for us. Like, I don't think he put a foot wrong. I don't think he missed a pass. I don't think he came out of a tackle. Like, we've seen him, but on this channel in particular, Declan, we really watch Hatate quite closely. And like, honestly, like everything he was doing, all that movement stuff was brilliant as well. But even like that movement where he opens the space up for Taylor to get down that line, he was doing those kind of movements even on the ball in the game, and Rangers couldn't deal with it, and he was just so nippy and he was so up for it. It was such a huge part of all the chances that came our way, was that kind of midfield overload, because your man Tillman, I was quite surprised with how they laid out to start with. I didn't see Lundstrom, Tillman and Kamara all starting together. I thought maybe Raskin would have started, or maybe somebody else might have come in, maybe Jack from the start. So I was kind of surprised with that, but I think that their plan was quite clearly just make it tight as possible for as long as possible. And then you seen with their subs, when they did they basically brought a whole new midfield on, and they tried to attack, maybe some tired legs or whatever. But Rio, was just, even when they are camping and 3 guys sitting and all that kind of stuff, like, he was just so lively that he just was uncontainable. I didn't really hear, I'm yet to get around all the fan media post-match, Declan, but all the kind of mainstream stuff, I didn't really hear as much gushing over Hatate as I thought it would have been. There was a lot of praise for Vickers, who did amazing, basically scored a goal for us in the first half, with that clearance he made, and
two vital blocks. Yeah, absolutely. But no, I think Hatate's well worth a mention, like everybody else. I think White Hoops yesterday, as I say, really, really important doing that. Taylor knows at that point, because we've spoken so many times on here, Quinny. When Hatate drags players to that side, it gives Taylor the chance to just, on you go. And there, Maeda drags himself into the middle. It causes Rangers all sorts of problems with that. Do you think it's a swipe at the ball that maybe puts Ben Davies off a wee bit?
No, I don't think so. I think all that, like, we can slow it down and watch the replays of it and all that, but in real time, that ball is flashing across. I don't think from when Maeda's anywhere near it to when it goes by Davis, I don't think he's got any time to react to that at all. Like, it is like close your eyes stuff,
Yep.
So I think we got a bit lucky, because if Maeda did touch that, if he did hit it, I'm not sure he scores. So I think, with the Vickers block, the first goal was so pivotal in this game, to really giving us the control we wanted in the match. And, Vickers really gets us out of jail with his block at one end. And then we get a little bit of fortune where, Maeda doesn't touch the ball and it just lands plumb to Kyogo, empty net.
Yeah. I almost thought, Quinny, with the 2 goals that we scored yesterday, that the Rangers almost kind of just froze at both of them. There was absolutely nothing they could do, just due to that what you're talking about there. Close your eyes. It was so quick. Hatate, drags him out. Moy gets the ball through to Taylor. Ball comes across Maeda. Kyogo bang 1-0. That's you. And then you're carrying the momentum, and it really changes Michael Beale's team talk. I think going into half time, because at 0-0 you're saying position's quite even here, but for the good chance up that other end of the park, just keep doing what you're doing, and we'll hopefully get rewards here. But when you're going 1-0 down, it's always very difficult. And Rangers in the Derby game at New Year came out at half time and really responded. They hit the post, of course, before we went up the other end of the park. But again, just so important times of the game to score the goals, and a pretty similar goal almost to ball through, ball across, bang.
Yeah, big time. And it's all that stuff, like, we've seen Celtic score lots of goals like that. We've seen Celtic make thousands of chances like that this season. And it's one of those ones where right place at the right time. And like we were just mentioned, like Maeda ran a few balls out that wing in the lead up to the goal. But for that, not only does Rio come in and take Tillman into a crowd and then give Taylor some space, but also as that's kind of developing, Maeda's ditched Tavernier on the right back, and then he's been inside, and then they've got an extra man to deal with. So then your man at right back is watching a guy legging it towards him that he's not used to dealing with, and he's also wondering where is my guy? Is somebody behind my shoulder? Obviously, we know he's closer to the goal at that stage, but it's that stuff that like what we talk about with Celtic. It's like that cohesion, that where they've been doing that for 30 minutes and it was running out the pitch. The ball was too quick, or we weren't really getting shots away. Balls are turning over, but the heads don't go down. The message stays the same, and it is like, keep going, it will come. And then, that's all it takes, is just 2 seconds to score a goal. And then at 35 minutes, at 1-0 up at that point, you feel so much better about everything. It's a nice goal. It's great for Kyogo to get the final off, up and running, as it were. And, like the chances we started creating thereafter for the remainder of the first half, like we could have really killed the game away a bit better, a bit quicker. Kyogo's unlucky from the edge of the box, and I think there's another chance as well.
Yeah, it just felt as if the rhythm was starting to build in our team after that goal happened, and the momentum was with us. So I say we get the goal after half time, which again I thought at 2-0 Quinny that the game would have panned out in a different way. I think very quickly after we went to a Rangers put in a really kind of strong challenge, and I thought that was how the game was going to pan out. But of course, they go and get the goal. We'll talk a wee bit about that. In terms of first half performances, I thought Carl Starfelt particularly was absolutely outstanding. You mentioned how important Carter Vickers was with those blocks, but we know that this Rangers team, under Michael Beale, Steven Gerrard, and Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, like that big diagonal switch of the big long ball, and he won absolutely everything. Morelos in the first half didn't get a sniff because of the two centre halves, but I thought out the two of them, Starfelt particularly looked really, really good in that first half. And until that wee error in the second half, could have possibly the man of the match shoot for me.
Yeah, the first half he was absolutely incredible. And like, it was funny because as much as like Carter Vickers was incredible for the whole game, there was like a moment in the first half where he had a bit of a shoulder challenge with Morelos.
He lost it, yep. And that was in the, I want to say that was in the opposition half that he actually lost that. I think it was maybe
it was
after
really high
a
up the
corner or
pitch.
something. Yeah.
And at that moment, you're like, oh, but Starfelt, like, throughout the full half, didn't put a foot wrong. And if anything, even in that time, Carter Vickers goes down, but he still gets up, he still recovered. And then, if you see that sequence of play, actually nothing came of it. But Starfelt, like you say, until that very end moment, there was nothing bad about his performance. Everything was solid. It was reliable. He didn't make any mistakes, didn't give away many fouls, if any. And it was one of his, again, similar to Rio, probably one of his best performances for the longest part of the game.
I always think in these games, we always speak about Celtic's attacking flair and the personnel that we've got up there. We'll talk about the players that came onto the park from the bench, but I think it is always important that you've got that foundation at the back, and both of them I thought were absolutely terrific. Top marks to both of them, really, really solid throughout the game. And I think that gives you the confidence in the way that you want to play football. If your two centre halves are right at it, we play so many balls across the face yard goal, which I know for some of the older timers and for myself can be a wee bit worrying at times. But it was important that confidence is there. I think that brings a confidence to the team. And also, when you're up against an opposition player like Morelos, who is going to try and get players sucked into things, both of them just didn't give him a sniff, just completely took him out the game. We'll get on to talk about the goal that he obviously scored, but I thought both of them as a centre back pairing yesterday, but absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And I think it's probably the only easy way to move from this as well is like the whole, like I mentioned earlier, the whole defence, but I'm probably up with Rio, probably my second most impressive performance from yesterday was probably Alistair Johnson as well. Like I just thought he was an absolute tank. Like see if you watch back the first Haksabanovic chance. And honestly, if you watch Alistair Johnson in that sequence, you could just put on a helmet, some skates, and a hockey stick. Like he really looks like a hockey player. He comes in from behind, takes the ball off Kent, and then Barisic is trying to take the ball off him. It's like a hockey move. You know, it's just like no chance. I'll see you later, Barisic. And then the diagonal ball he hits from right back over to left wing at the break. Like I thought that summed up his performance. I thought he was fantastic in his first final. You know, second derby match, and obviously a first derby match and a final as well for like it was for a lot of players. But I thought he came out of it as an absolute star.
Let's talk more about him because I think he really deserves a bit of time on here for us to talk about his performance and just him since coming in. What I find that has been, it was going to be difficult to replace somebody like Josip Juranovic, who's doing particularly well at Union Berlin. I know they get beat 3-0 yesterday by Bayern Munich, but they're still, I think they're only 3 points behind Munich in
No shame in that.
the title race in Bundesliga. Absolutely no shame in that, Quinny. So it was always going to be difficult to replace him, especially after you look at his World Cup campaign with Croatia. But what I find Alistair Johnson has been, I know there was a few people who maybe weren't impressed by his World Cup performances. We're fighting what we were getting here, but coming in for his debut firstly at Ibrox at the start of January was tough, and I thought it was one of our best players in a day that our team wasn't at our best. But yesterday, absolutely fantastic, really strong. He didn't shirk out any challenge, and he just absolutely went for it. He left absolutely everything on the pitch yesterday, Alistair Johnson at Hampden.
He was an absolute hero, and like I say, when I was watching it back today, like that was just I just couldn't get that image out of my head because like every 50-50 it went into, every time he was carrying the ball out from right back, like it just didn't look like anyone could touch him. You know, he was very strong, very confident, and he didn't blink. To make an adventurous pass or to progress the team up, didn't take chances in that respect. Thought he was quite unlucky to get booked right at the very end of the game, but I say the last 10 minutes, it just felt like the ref was just filling a quota with bookings. Just so maybe
that's just even it out. just even it out type of thing. I think there is a bit of that, and you can actually see with Johnson, that Kyogo chance that I speak about that he had with the ball that he put in. At times, I think Quinny maybe in the first half for us, and the manager did touch on us. Rangers were frustrating us a wee bit with they're packed in and set up, and you saw, I think it happened twice in the first half that Maeda and Jota switched wings. But you saw that other element to Johnson's game when he's away up the other end of the park. And by the way, I think if you try that with Kyogo, probably 9 times out of 10 he'll score. Probably 8 or 9 of them. The ball in from Johnson was absolutely perfect. It was just it was crying out for him to put it into the back of the net.
Yeah, as soon as that happened, I just thought straight away that if this happened like 2-3 months ago, we'd all be saying Giakoumakis should have started.
Right away. Yep. Big O might have did pretty well with that, but I do want to talk about him later on. But listen, Kyogo more than made up for it, so we don't need to talk about that chance too much. But Alistair Johnson, terrific. I've spoken about Greg Taylor again, who was pivotal to that first goal. Again, really dealt with his battle down that side well. We spoke last week on here about Celtic basically being able to match Rangers in that overload area. That's a big part of that. I think is down to both inverted fullbacks, but something in that clip that I sent you over earlier was how important not just the fullbacks were to that, but also the positions of the midfielders. We've spoken about Rio and Cal, Aaron Mooy. Listen, I know people will point the finger for the goal that we concede, but he's absolutely pivotal to both the goals that we score. It's almost like a secondary assist. I know that's not a thing that people will talk about, but it's his vision to pick out the pass, which basically creates a goal for me. Would you agree with that, Quinny?
Oh, completely, yeah. I don't think we can really, the goal's the goal. It's a scrappy set piece at the back post. It happens in football. You could spend all your life on the training pitch trying to stop that.
It's actually quite a good finish. As much as I'm not a big fan, it's actually quite a good finish. I don't think there's much Joe Hart could have done with it. Would you agree with that, Quinny?
Yeah, point blank range. It's there's just some things you just have to put your hands up to and go, okay, well, they scored the goal. Like it's just, as I say, if you were a team, you could spend your whole life training to never score, to concede those goals, and you would just never be successful because it's just going to happen.
And a different day, Aaron Mooy might win the ball, but it's just one that you put as a line under it, and we'll leave him there. But we're not wanting to praise. Although the reaction to the goal I thought was quite funny, punching air and whatever else. It didn't really rile him up too much.
I love that it was a really pointless goal, to be honest with you, because he's only like the second goal against us or something, isn't it?
I think we are crowding, I think it might be second one. But back to Aaron Mooy, whose head's just peeking over your screen there. I wish you could see him, but you could point up to him. There he's there. That's him. Talk to me about him, because we've spoken before the game about whether it was going to be O'Reilly or Mooy, but it looked as if the gaffer got it bang on.
Simon Donnelly called it right, didn't he? He was the only one that said Mooy out of the three of us. Me and you both went O'Reilly. But I think what we maybe lacked in the first 30 minutes, O'Reilly would have probably given us, if you get me. But by the time we then kind of found our motion and got into our spaces, who's where, I think Mooy's quality was apparent all the way throughout. Big time.
He played that 10 role really well, and you see that he was just kind of tucked in behind where Kyogo was, and it just gives that Rangers midfield something completely different to work on, because when they're packed in there a wee bit, with the two kind of holders and Lundstrom and Kamara, and you're looking for the kind of the forward players to get into the positions to support Morelos. Mooy almost for both the goals is kind of left by himself. He's got the time to really look up and pick the pass out, and it's two splendid balls that he plays through.
Yeah, cool, calm and collected. Daddy cool himself, But I think, as well, it was a really good pairing for him against Lundstrom, because, if you're going to profile the guys before coming to Celtic and Rangers, both in terms
Premier
of stature,
League midfielders,
just Premier League midfielders, yeah, exactly. If you just want to kind of profile them in such a basic way, and because we've been into games against Rangers before, and Lundstrom has affected the midfield. He has disrupted play, and he has got his own stamp on the game in certain spells, and again, I don't know how much that's directly down to Mooy, but I do feel that even when the game did have the threat of getting a wee bit helter-skelter, whenever the ball came to him, really similar to Iwata, and I know we'll probably come into him later, but they don't even need to look, they don't even blink, they don't even think, they just know, I've got two touches and I'm going to play the ball to this guy, I'm going to play the ball into that space, and everyone's so well organised that there's a run on, there's a guy in that space, and those, particularly by how tight the scoreline was, for big spells of the match, having that next to McGregor, and then just how nippy that Rio was, it was a great, kind of cauldron of a midfield.
Fire, yeah. I almost thought it was a bit bulldogish light as well in the first half, because he was, but a lot of people have this idea that this Celtic team lacks digging, whatever else, and it's always their kind of worry going into this game, but I thought he gave us that, and really, really top performance, and as I say, really, really great vision to pick out both the balls, and he played his part in the game. But again, something we were talking about, that second goal was Callum McGregor, that was highlighted by Gigpod in Twitter earlier on, and I thought I would give it a mention. And that the goal that Rogic scores at Ibrox is almost pretty similar to the one that we get yesterday, just due to McGregor's run, because it can be, when we're speaking about those tight spaces, Quinny, sometimes you do need somebody just to carry the ball, 10 yards or whatever else. McGregor did that, and it takes 3 Rangers players out the equation, and it allows for that space that Mooy actually gets to then play the ball through to Hatate.
Yeah, for sure. And the interplay between the midfield in that respect is fantastic, because that was the thing that, that kind of action on the pitch is what I really enjoyed from Hatate. He just always travelled with the ball, always played it off to someone. He was really good as well in terms of I've given criticism before for having his pocket picked, dwells on the ball a bit much. But not only to see Rio do that, but seeing McGregor do that as well, because the manager's post-match comments, I can't remember what the question was exactly, but he said something to the effect of, by the end of the game, he didn't tell the midfields to be any more defensive or anything like that, but the players have the power on the pitch to, make their own decisions and that kind of thing. So to see McGregor take the power of his decision that the manager gives him, and we want to see McGregor travel with the ball, we want to see him leading us up the pitch, and yeah, that was a great comparison with the Rogic goal as well. But that movement that he makes also probably takes Rangers by surprise a bit, because it's not something he does for 90 minutes. It is something that he does in little opportunities.
Yeah, and I think it was highlighted after the match yesterday. It wasn't Jota's best game, but you always thought it was a danger for Rangers at times when he got the ball. And Dye's an incredible performance, just everything that he put into it. And as you say, that connects with the midfield and just gives the opposition so many difficulties that are really hard to handle.
Yeah, for sure. I did think Jota was a threat. Like every time he was on the ball, he looked like definitely our most kind of creative player in that sense. That when he was on the ball, you knew a ball was going to come in, or he was going to maybe do a 1-2 or something like that. But I did feel between Jota and Maeda, like you said, they swapped wings a few times. I don't feel either of them like had a huge portion. You know, I was kind of saying this last week with Simon as well around Jota, but I don't feel that he really had a huge say on the game, as it were. Like he played good, he played his part, you know, but he didn't like run the final. I'd maybe say Rio was probably the closest to that, in my opinion, anyway. So I think they both done really well. And then when they switched wings, I thought, oh, well, maybe against the right back, he'll do a bit better. And maybe Maeda's better off fighting the left back. But again, like when they did swap the first like minute or two, I think both of them had joy at different times in the game.
Yeah, they did.
But
Yeah.
it was still, and again, it was great performances from both of them. I'm nitpicking at best, you know, but I don't think either one of them will leave the final thinking they did their best, which is brilliant.
No, and I think that's always it. They want to score goals and they want to give assists, and that's just the standards that we spoke about at the very start of this. That's what they expect from their game. But let's talk about the main man. I think the myth now, Quinny, has been dispelled that Kyogo doesn't turn up in Rangers games, because I think I said after the last Rangers game that, you know, it almost seemed as if every time he came up against Rangers there was some kind of issue. He played on the left hand side for the first one, injured for the second one, injured for the third one. The Scottish Cup semi final he just came back for. I think he came off the bench in the one each draw. At the start of the season, he goes off in the first 7 minutes or something, the 4-0 game. And then eventually gets a chance to play through the middle against Rangers at New Year, and he scores towards the end of the game. And then yesterday, he scores twice.
I don't think he's got any problem playing against Rangers at all. I think it is one of these things. There was a wee bit of hard luck with all those circumstances, particularly early on. And I think because of the way like their strengths are, we kind of mentioned Lundstrom earlier. You can say the same about Goldson probably, and maybe one or two others they've had over the years. It is strength and it is grit and it is muscles mainly what they're relying on, particularly against Kyogo. And you know, again, I think it's been maybe just a surface level observation that he's not, again, running behind for 90 minutes in all these games and really put them to the sword, similar to the way we've seen other Celtic strikers in the past, you know. But I think with his goal scoring record now, that speaks for itself at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And he becomes actually the first Celtic striker to score back-to-back braces in League Cup finals since Billy McPhail, I think, in the mid-1950s, which is quite an impressive record. But, you know, again, two really important goals in the League Cup final last season against Hibs, delivers again in the big occasion. I know there was a lot of frustration coming out the Champions League campaign that he didn't get a goal, but his form post-World Cup, Quinny, we keep talking about it on here every week, has been incredible. And it's going to be a hell of a job to pick the player of the year, because it's going to be very hard to dismiss somebody who I think will have hit 30 goals by the end of the season.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
he's
for
24
sure.
just now, is that right? 24?
I'm losing count every week.
I'll check that. Talk about when I'll check that.
But no, I think, like, you know, the performance yesterday was so amazing, and the progression the team's been making over the last couple of months has been like so steep in such a positive way that, you know, expectations can only build off a performance like this, you know. And like, I know it finished 2-1, right? And yeah, maybe on what I'm going to say, if you were to give balance of opportunities, maybe Rangers could have had another goal, maybe another two at the very most in this game, right? But definitely another
Celtic
one.
have, though. So could Celtic.
But that's what I was going to say. In the last 10 minutes alone, we could have had another three. You know, Haksabanovic was in twice very well. And O'Reilly had one.
Yeah.
You know, so like, as much as the scoreline, again, like we said, like I kind of thought coming into the game, it wasn't going to be a 4-0 or anything mad like that. I was quite confident we would run all over them and we would win the game in that sense. But those chances towards the end, like, that's the level of potential we've still got to go, you know, where like that is the exact game. Those subs come in the 30th minute in that 2-1 situation, but it is tight. It's not like an easy match. And I think, you know, Haksabanovic, if he had any of those chances again tomorrow or today, he'd be passing them or maybe making sure he scores next time around. And like if we can have such a, for like maybe the first 30 minutes and then maybe 10 minutes in the second half, a relatively kind of tight enough game, the ability to really have put maybe 4 or 5 on the board genuinely is
easily 4.
really exciting to think about.
Easily 4, I think, yesterday with the chances that we created. But as you say, I was quite excited with Siad yesterday. I think he's going to really kick on from this game. I know it was unfortunate he didn't score. But we go to St Mirren this weekend. There's going to be that midweek game against Hearts, which I think will allow for some rotation towards those games. I think Haksabanovic might come in for one of those, and he'll play, I hope, an important part towards the end of this campaign. Just in terms of the second half, Quinny, we've spoken about the getting the second goal, conceding the goal. The last 20 minutes, they weren't anywhere near as bad as watching the 2019 League Cup final, but it was certainly one eye on the park and also one eye on the clock, because I thought, oh, please, can he go quicker? And I kept looking up at it and I thought, oh, that's only a minute that's passed. Oh, no. And I thought, right, here we go. Subs are coming on. Well, that'll waste more time. And I'm thinking, that's only been another 2 minutes that's wasted. Right? Oh, come on. And then it was just for me, I was hoping that there was a point in the game and it was getting my nerves. Joe Hart collected the ball and right away he's trying to throw it out. And I'm like, I just hold the ball for a minute, lie on the deck and just wait, because it just, for me, Quinny, I don't know if that's just being at the game or whatever else. You might have been different watching it in the telly. But I just thought we needed to really take the sting out in the second half, which we didn't do too much. I know that's not really our way of playing football, but sometimes in games like that, I just thought we had to take the sting. I thought somebody go down with cramp or something, just, break this up a wee bit.
For sure. I think McGregor tried a wee bit of that towards the end himself, tried to take a wee minute or two off of it. But no, the commentator said as much. I didn't really think of it in that way because, like, the fresh legs we had on and how itching everyone is to score. And I think there's maybe a wee bit of experience that comes with Joe Hart in that sense. Like, how many games have you seen a team winning 2-1 and then it is like, and I'm not saying the goalkeeper killing a 30 seconds would have resulted in this, but that mentality of we're winning, just don't concede another one, get to the finish line is a dangerous mentality to have. And if we've got, Haksabanovic, O'Reilly, these guys have all just come on, they're all itching to get on the ball. If he thinks he can find them, then I'm all up for him going for it at that point, because like you've seen the chances. One of them goes in, game over, we're partying for the last 5 minutes of the game. I was going to say the last 5 minutes, but extra time was meant to be 4. I think it ended up being 6 minutes in the end of the
6
game.
or 7, yeah.
Give Rangers every minute they could.
Aye, I'm sure there was somebody getting a bit of treatment, but it did go in a wee, I think, an extra 2 minutes or so, maybe more. But yeah, you speak there, Quinny, about the players itching to kind of make an impression in the game. What was your take on the subs yesterday? Because it's usually a case of, you can set the kettle on for whenever these subs will come, but you made the call here last week that you thought Turnbull wouldn't feature in the final at all and Iwata would. That did happen. What was your take on the subs? And obviously after the game, Ange does mention that bringing O on, he could see that Rangers were starting to frustrate us a wee bit and getting a wee bit more joy, and he wanted to kind of bring on that directness of what was your take on the players that you introduced into the game?
I thought they all hit the ground running in a big way. Sometimes, like you say, you can set your clock to these substitutions quite often. But, again, very often it will take a minute or two, if not longer, to get a chance out of them, to get a good spell of play out of the substitutes. But from the minute go, when they come in, every one of them hit the ground running. I don't think anyone was ever frustrating, gave a ball away or made a wrong decision. I think O will be a bit disappointed with I don't know if he got booked for it, but the foul where he
did get booked.
Yeah,
he did get booked, and the thing that frustrated me with that, Quinny, was Morelos did it, I think, throughout the game 5 or 6 times and escaped without absolutely no booking yesterday. And I think it was the first time that O did that. Morelos did it in the first half, and yet no booking. It's all about consistency when it comes to these decisions for me.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that was a great sign of he was not scared to put himself about. He was coming on the pitch and he was wanting to get the cat in amongst the pigeons, as it were, So I thought all the subs, Haksabanovic probably made the biggest impression on the match, just by keeping that tempo up and chasing us up the pitch when we got the ball out to get them retreating as well. I thought it was incredible. But I thought Iwata looked really tidy as well. And
talk to me about him.
But when he came in, like we seen last week against Aberdeen, he came in and then, with the state of the game, you would maybe have expected McGregor to maybe stay a wee bit closer, a wee bit higher up to O'Reilly. But we've seen both of them in the last 5-10 minutes kind of camp in together. And like the manager said, post-match, it's really down to them to make these decisions. And one of the last chances, I think it was O'Reilly's chance, Iwata wins the ball, and then he plays the ball out to Haxa. He follows up the play very nicely. He doesn't even need to run because there's only like 3 Rangers defenders that are keeping up with the play. Everyone else is dead on their feet, you know. And he gets to the edge of the box. The ball breaks to him. And like, if you watch it back, he knows where O'Reilly is. He doesn't even need to look at him. He sees the ball coming to him. He knows it's a final, and he just goes, make sure I do this properly. And he just goes like one time, boom, and it just sets O'Reilly up perfectly, you know. And it's not a pure amazing, genius, creative pass. It breaks the lines and takes 5 people out of the game. But running up the pitch, just off the bench, cup final, derby, yada, yada. How many people try and put their laces on that, you know?
Yeah.
Everybody
Absolutely.
probably, you know?
Yeah. I thought it was a good signal. The subs yesterday. Again, I thought Iwata made a bit of a difference when he came on. Almost thought our subs in a way, it gave us something extra, Quinny, but I also thought it kind of nullified Rangers subs too, because I thought the momentum was a wee bit with them after they get the goal. As I say, I wanted us to really take the sting out of it. The subs did that partly. It was always going to be a tough task, especially for O coming on against an experienced player in Goldson and Davies, but I thought he did his job pretty well for a 21-year-old, which again is a good sign that you've got that there as an option now, that if you do need to try and play that sort of football, it is the option. So Iwata, O'Reilly, Abada, have I missed somebody there? I think they will all make an impact.
Bad, was all right. Could have done without diving, but...
Yeah, that really annoyed me, that, because at the game I thought, why would they go down? You know, I thought, oh, Nick Walsh, blah, blah, blah. But no, I've watched that back and it's really frustrating to see that. Just in terms of the bigger picture, Quinny, we'll not do an hour here because we'll keep that for during the week. People maybe looked at this game and thinking, does this possibly signal a change of direction? You know, and I wasn't somebody that subscribed to that. Whether Celtic win the cup or whether they didn't win the cup, I didn't think it would change the outcome of the league went this season or how things are going to pan out under Ange at Celtic. But Celtic winning the cup, I think, shows a real indication that we're still the dominant force in the country. We're 9 points clear in the league. If we are to let that slip, I think it'd be absolute chaos. So I think yesterday once again laid down a marker and a precedent. It was the first time we'd faced Rangers in a final at Hampden. It's 3 out of 4 trophies. We'll look good to make it 4 out of 5 very soon.
Yeah, I think, you know, thinking back to the derby matches we had like maybe 6 or 7 years ago or whatever it was when they first kind of returned to the top flight, it feels like after, you know, potentially after a win like this, we could go into the other derbies we have this year and we start to feel that inferiority complex come out a little bit again. You know, we heard it from some of the Rangers players in the build up to the game, like giving it the beginning, like we're the better team and all that kind of stuff. But now they've been thoroughly, like they had us weakened at home, at their home. You know, when they were pretty much full strength or whatever, couldn't beat us. Obviously, they're full strength. They're undefeated since Beale came in. Everyone's there and available. And, you know, other than the goal and the Sakala chance, they weren't even present for the most part of the match, you know. So we could not only just run away with this league or whatever, but psychologically, confidence-wise, whatever, like, if this continues throughout the season and we really, like, the performance on the pitch that we are getting in that game and we've been seeing, that elevation not only gets us more points on the board, of course, but also there's a huge quality gap there that we can start to hopefully kind of stretch open, because that quality gap, when we can do this all the time like we have been and get back to doing that with these current group of players that we've got, that's when we can get mega excited about some of the glamour games that might be coming back next time around, because we need to be at absolute peak and the players we've got are good enough if we've got them in the right shape.
And that was why I said that the January window was as important to us as the summer had been the year before, because to me that January window that just gone by there's a preparation that should already start to be taking place, which it looks as if it is, towards, you know, hopeful European football next season, because I think that's always going to be where the benchmark is set for Celtic and how far they can go in European football. But yesterday, it's a special day. You see Joe Hart after the game, you know, with emotion and speaking about it's a very pleasant group and living in the moment. And that's just the way that you have to do it. But again, I think in typical Ange fashion, right away after the game, you knew that there was going to be that question about the T word, treble word, but it's just going to be focused right away in St Mirren. Again, there'll be no, he'll let the players enjoy this, he'll ask them to go again, and it'll be just on to the next game. But I hope they all had a very good night out yesterday, and even if they're waking up with sore heads this morning, I think that's well allowed.
Oh well deserved at this point, but yeah, it's the attitude you want. It really is. It's a bit trope at this point because almost every manager says this stuff, but it's the managers that say it, and it's the managers that like say it, and they really live it and
Yeah.
follow through with it. Because sometimes it is just rhetoric, it is just copy and paste press conference answers, but you can really tell what you get out of the manager's genuine, what the strategy is, what the plan is, and it was nice to hear him but say that he's maybe learned a wee bit from last season, and he's like, okay, maybe let's let them have one night, So I don't think they maybe had those luxuries last time around. So it's great to hear that the manager is allowed to enjoy this a little bit as well, because like he was talking about in his post match and whatever, like the incredible amount of work that goes into the team, of course, but if you can't enjoy the moments, then the suffering becomes less tolerable. So you need to enjoy them, when they come.
Absolutely, and you could see that from the reaction yesterday. I mean, Johnston, McGregor, to name but a few, came over and were really giving it big time over at us. Then Joe Hart did his best impression of the angry opposition keeper towards the end when he booted the ball into the crowd. But and then Ange, I mean, the clip that Celtic posted, you could see we really enjoyed that towards the end. You could see we really meant it. I get quite excited when he started doing that. It was right in my corner, and I was banging the old chest and giving it that. But the collectiveness, the spirit of the group, absolutely fantastic. We are continuing to move on, and things can only get better. It's already good, but I think it can only get better still at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And like I say, the main thing is coming out of this game is it'll be really interesting to see, because we've spoken on this podcast or on this channel quite a few times about like the chapters of the season, if you know what I mean. And we've definitely seen this as like an end of a chapter for a segment of the season. We've finished that kind of post World Cup period, new signings coming in, some difficult fixture lists where we went midweek and weekend for a long time. We've now finished the Little Cup final, and now it's like the chapter before the split. It's running through, make sure we get to the Scottish final. And, all the points that are there to be had in the league, we continue as it is. So this might be the period that the manager's kind of spoken about already, where all the squad players are going to really pull their part now. We might see some more hacks, like you mentioned already.
Tony Ralston's another one I think might come in a wee bit more.
Rouse and Bernabei, there's a lot of guys floating around there that haven't had minutes in about a month or two, that we could start to see them popping back on the team sheet again.
I think that's a good way of looking at it. The era is certainly well underway, as I mentioned before. It's 3 trophies out of 4 for Ange Postecoglou's Celtic. If you've been watching us, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll be hopefully bringing you plenty of content towards the end of this season as Celtic look towards a league title. We've got 1 trophy in the bag. We'll be looking for more. There's no doubt about that. Myself, Quinny, will be here again with the usual flagship pod during the week, so look out for that dropping up, probably dropping Friday. Congratulations once again to Ange Postecoglou's Celtic on another Viaplay Cup win. It's 2 League Cups out of 2. We've already won the league. We're 9 points clear at this point in time. We'll see how we get on with that, and we're in the quarter final of the Scottish Cup. Quinny, as always, a pleasure. Hopefully, my voice is in a wee bit better state come Thursday when I next speak to you. But for everyone that was at the game yesterday and everybody that tuned in with their nearest and dearest, again, special moments, always enjoy them, and hail.